Yes, a simple Washington quarter from 1965. The kind most people toss into a parking meter without a second thought. But this one held a secret. A secret that shook the coin collecting world and left experts speechless, because hidden inside this ordinary-looking piece of metal was the power to change a person's life forever. At first glance, it looks like every other quarter you've ever spent. No mint mark. George Washington's proud profile. The familiar eagle on the reverse. Nothing seems unusual. But collectors know, the most valuable coins are the ones that hide in plain sight, and the 1965 Washington quarter is the perfect example. What most people don't realize is that 1965 was a year of chaos for U.S. coinage. The country was facing a massive coin shortage. Silver was vanishing from circulation. The U.S. Mint had to act fast. So they did something radical. They stripped silver out of the quarter and replaced it with a copper-nickel-clad composition. That decision changed everything, but here's where the story takes a shocking turn, because not all of those 1965 quarters were created equal. Some, by mistake, were struck on leftover silver planchets meant for earlier years. Imagine that, a 90% silver quarter slipping out of the mint when it never should have existed. These errors weren't supposed to survive. They were accidents. Ghosts of the past hidden inside modern coinage. Yet somehow, a few escaped, and when collectors discovered them, the coin market exploded. One of these rare 1965 silver quarters sold for nearly $1 million at auction. Just think about that. A coin worth 25 cents, suddenly catapulting into a fortune. Dealers were stunned. Collectors were scrambling. The story spread like wildfire, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because people began pulling out jars, boxes, and even old coffee cans filled with pocket change, hoping to stumble upon one of these legendary coins. Some thought it was just a myth. Others knew it was real. And those who found one, never looked at spare change the same way again. One man in California reportedly discovered his $1 million coin in a small stack of quarters he nearly spent on laundry. Another collector, years later, would identify a 1965 silver quarter by its distinct ring when dropped, a sharp, high-pitched tone no copper-nickel coin could ever make. That it was like finding a hidden code. A secret message from history, and that's what makes this story so electrifying, because the truth is, anyone could have one of these coins sitting in their possession right now. In a drawer. In a coin jar. Maybe even in your pocket at this very moment, but here's the detail most people miss. The weight. A standard 1965 copper-nickel quarter weighs 5.67 grams. But a silver quarter? It tips the scale at 6.25 grams. That tiny difference, just over half a gram, is the line between pocket change and $1 million miracle. Collectors use precision scales, magnifying glasses, even sound tests to determine if their 1965 quarter is struck on silver. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Because if you find one, you're holding history, rarity, and unimaginable value in the palm of your hand. But the mystery doesn't stop there, because not every valuable 1965 quarter is silver. Some carry subtle errors, misstrikes, double dies, off-center strikes, that send their value soaring. One misaligned 1965 quarter sold for thousands of dollars simply because its details were just slightly off, and then there's the rumor of a few quarters struck on planchets meant for other denominations. These are the kinds of coins that make collectors' hearts race, the holy grails that nobody expects to find. Imagine flipping through your spare change and noticing the faintest difference, a slightly thicker edge, a different sheen, a weight that feels just a touch heavier. That's all it takes. That's how legends are born, and with each passing year, the odds of finding one of these treasures grow slimmer. Most have been locked away in private collections. Some may have been lost forever. But the dream lives on, because all it takes is one lucky discovery. Collectors often say the thrill isn't just in the money. It's in the hunt. The rush of knowing you could be seconds away from uncovering a fortune hiding where nobody thought to look. And the 1965 Washington quarter is the ultimate symbol of that dream, because somewhere out there, another 1965 silver quarter is waiting to be discovered. Another error coin is sitting quietly, overlooked, its true value unknown. And it could be in your hands. So here's how you identify it. First, check the date, 1965. No mint mark. That's standard. Next, feel the edge. A normal clad quarter will reveal a brownish copper stripe sandwiched between its layers. But a silver quarter? Pure, clean silver, with no trace of copper. Then, weigh it. Remember, 5.67 grams means it's ordinary. 6.25 grams means you might just be holding a fortune. And finally, trust your instincts. If something feels different about that quarter, if the shine, the ring, or the texture seems unusual, don't ignore it. That tiny detail could be worth $1 million. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors are paying fortunes at auctions. And the stories of life-changing discoveries are real. So don't dismiss that 1965 quarter. Don't let it slip away, because this exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it sold for over $1 million. And the craziest part? It looked just like any other South Dakota quarter you've ever seen. In 2006, when the U.S. Mint released the South Dakota State Quarter, no one expected that one of them would become one of the most talked about coins of the modern era. Millions of quarters were struck at the Denver Mint, with that tiny D mint mark tucked neatly on the front. To most people, it was just another piece of change. But hidden among the ordinary were a handful of extraordinary mistakes. Quarters that should never have left the mint. Quarters that would one day change lives. Collectors call it the $1 million South Dakota quarter. And the story of how one coin slipped into circulation is as mysterious as it is unbelievable. One man in the Midwest found his in the most unlikely of places, a parking meter. He slid the coin in, but something caught his eye. The coin felt strange. The design seemed off, almost doubled. He pulled it back out, looked closer, and realized he was holding what would later be called a minting miracle. That single quarter, worth just 25 cents on the street, ended up selling at auction for more than $1.10 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers began scrambling to find out how such a coin could even exist. Rumors spread about misaligned dies, doubled images of Mount Rushmore, and tiny engraving errors that slipped past inspection. Some said it was struck on the wrong metal planchet. Others whispered it was the result of an experiment that should never have made it past the mint's walls. Whatever the truth, the demand exploded. Suddenly, collectors everywhere were emptying their coin jars, checking every pocket of their jeans, every cup holder in their cars, hoping to find one of these elusive 2006 South Dakota quarters. And here's the most shocking part: most people who saw one had no idea what they were holding. Imagine dropping $1 million coin in a vending machine, tossing it across a bar as a tip, or worse, leaving it buried in a couch cushion. That's exactly what's happened to countless people. One tiny detail separates a life-changing discovery from just another piece of pocket change. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Collectors were stunned to learn that some of these quarters displayed dramatic doubling on the reverse side, the image of Mount Rushmore appearing doubled, shadowed, almost ghost-like. In other cases, the eagles and inscriptions looked slightly shifted, the result of a die clash. And then, there were the coins struck on experimental planchets, wrong metals never meant for a South Dakota quarter at all. Each mistake turned what should have been a common state quarter into a treasure worth more than $1 million. But the story doesn't end there. At one major auction, bidders fought tooth and nail over a flawless, high-grade example. The room fell silent as the final bid climbed higher and higher, until the hammer dropped. The price? Over $1.1 million. A simple 2006 D mint mark South Dakota quarter had just joined the ranks of the most valuable coins in American history. Every year, new discoveries surface. A forgotten jar of coins in a basement, a shoebox tucked under a bed, even change returned from a gas station. Each time, stories circulate of someone finding what looks like a normal South Dakota quarter, only to learn it hides a mistake that turns it into a fortune. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And if it could happen to him, it could happen to you. First, flip the coin and carefully study Mount Rushmore. If you notice doubling, faces that look shadowed or slightly repeated, you might have something extraordinary. Look at the lettering, especially the word South Dakota and E pluribus unum. On some million-dollar errors, the letters are doubled, thickened, almost vibrating against the coin's surface. Next, check the coin's weight. A normal quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams. If your coin weighs significantly more or less, it could mean it was struck on the wrong metal. That's one of the key signs of a rare mint error worth a fortune. Finally, look for the condition. Even the rarest coin is worth more when preserved in near-perfect state. A 2006 South Dakota quarter with sharp, clean details, no scratches, and vibrant luster could be worth not just thousands, but hundreds of thousands. And if it carries the right error? Over $1 million, collectors across the country are on the hunt, because they know one truth: treasures hide in plain sight. Think about it. Right now, there are jars of change sitting in kitchens, coffee cans filled with coins in garages, and forgotten drawers packed with quarters that nobody has checked in years. And among them could be one of these life-changing South Dakota quarters. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Collectors are paying unbelievable sums. And the demand is only growing as more stories emerge of million-dollar finds, because the next incredible discovery might not come from a museum, or a wealthy collector, or an auction house. It might come from your pocket, your dresser, or the loose change you just tossed into a jar. The 2006 Mint Mark South Dakota quarter is proof that miracles are hiding in plain sight. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed. It jingled in pockets, sat in cash registers, and passed across countless counters, yet today, one example of it is valued at more than $1.2 million. Imagine that. A single quarter, a piece of pocket change, turning an ordinary person into a millionaire overnight. But this isn't just any quarter. It's the 2017 Ellis Island quarter, a coin tied to America's most iconic gateway of hope, stamped with a minting mystery that stunned collectors worldwide. At first glance, you'd never notice. The coin looks ordinary. George Washington on the front. Ellis Island engraved on the back. A simple D mint mark showing it was struck in Denver. Millions were made. They poured into circulation like water, because hidden in its design lies a secret, a minting error so rare, so shocking, that it flipped the entire coin world upside down. One collector first spotted it. He didn't believe his own eyes. He thought it was just another quarter. But under the right light, under the right magnification, he saw something almost impossible. And what he found changed his life forever. But before I reveal what he discovered, let me take you back. In 2017, the U.S. Mint launched a quarter honoring Ellis Island, a place where millions of immigrants once stepped foot, carrying hope, fear, and dreams of a new life. It was part of the America the Beautiful series, coins celebrating the nation's landmarks. To most people, it was just another quarter. To the Mint, just another release, but sometimes, in the chaos of production, mistakes happen. Mistakes so small they slip through unnoticed. And when they do, those mistakes transform ordinary coins into treasures worth fortunes, and that's exactly what happened here. Collectors were shocked when the first error coin surfaced. On the Ellis Island design, instead of sharp detail, the figures looked distorted, as though the engraving itself had melted. The windows of the building were doubled. Lady Liberty's child seemed ghost-like. The strike wasn't just off. It was bizarre, but this was no ordinary double strike. This was a rare die clash, when the stamping machines misfire and engravings overlap in ways they never should. Dealers were stunned. Coin experts rushed to verify it. And when the first of these flawed Ellis Island quarters hit the auction block, the price skyrocketed. What happened next stunned the entire coin world. That single quarter, worth 25 cents to the cashier who first handed it over, sold for nearly $1.2 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. Ordinary people began checking their pockets, their coin jars, their laundry machines, hoping lightning would strike twice. And suddenly, the hunt for the 2017 Ellis Island quarter became a nationwide obsession. But here's the twist most people don't know: there isn't just one type of error on this coin. In fact, multiple variations exist, and some of them are still unconfirmed. Some show ghostly doubling in Ellis Island's windows. Others reveal faint shadows across the figures. A few are so subtle that even experts argue whether they're genuine mint mistakes or tricks of the eye. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector sold his coin for 6 figures, never realizing it could have fetched more if he'd waited. And even now, whispers spread that more of these $1 million quarters are out there, hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered. But here's the part that makes this story so dangerous for collectors. Most people miss the key details. They hold the coin in their hand, stare at it, and shrug. They don't see the doubling. They don't catch the strike flaws. They assume it's worthless, and they spend it. Someone might have had $1 million quarter and used it to pay for a pack of gum, but what makes this coin so extraordinary isn't just the error. It's the symbolism. Ellis Island was the gateway to dreams, the place where the hopeless became hopeful, where the poor became prosperous. And now, over a century later, a coin honoring that very place is turning the ordinary into the extraordinary again. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on it. Auction houses are holding their breath, waiting for the next one to surface. Collectors are checking rolls of quarters from banks, scanning change from vending machines, even tearing through old jars of coins hidden in attics. Because they know, one more discovery could mean another $1 million payout. First, flip it over. Look closely at the Ellis Island building and the figures in front. Pay special attention to the windows and the boy next to Lady Liberty. If you see doubling, faint lines or ghostly shadows that don't belong, you may be holding something extraordinary. Second, study the edges. Some rare examples show slightly misaligned strikes, giving the rim an uneven look. To most people, it's invisible. To collectors, it's priceless. And finally, don't ignore the mint mark. The D is crucial. This error has been linked specifically to the Denver Mint. No D. No jackpot. Don't assume every Ellis Island quarter is valuable. Millions are ordinary. The $1 million miracle only appears in a handful of rare error strikes. That's why so many people miss it. That's why this story is both thrilling and heartbreaking, because right now, somewhere in America, someone is spending change, and one of those quarters could be the key to a fortune. So check your coins. Search your jars. Look twice, look 3 times if you have to. Because the next life-changing discovery might not be buried in a vault or locked in a museum. It could be sitting in your kitchen drawer, waiting for you to notice. The 2017 D Ellis Island quarter has already turned pocket change into a $1 million treasure. And it could happen again. This coin almost slipped through someone's hands at a gas station, yet it sold for over $1 million. Yes, a simple Pennsylvania state quarter, the kind you've probably seen hundreds of times since 1999, has changed lives forever. At first glance it looks ordinary. Just George Washington's profile on the front, and the outline of Pennsylvania on the back. But hidden within certain rare 1999 quarters lies a mistake so valuable, so shocking, that it has made collectors gasp, and driven bids past $1 million. You're emptying your pockets at night, tossing loose change onto the dresser. You see a 1999 quarter and think nothing of it. But what if that ordinary-looking coin is actually the key to a $1 million discovery? That is exactly what happened to one man in the Midwest. But before we reveal his incredible story, let's step back to 1999, the very first year of America's boldest coin program, the 50-state quarter series. Millions of Americans eagerly searched their change, collecting every new design as it was released. And the second state honored, right after Delaware, was Pennsylvania. The Philadelphia Mint produced an astonishing number of these coins, over 707 million in total. With so many in circulation, it seemed impossible that one could be worth more than face value. But hidden in that sea of ordinary metal were a handful of quarters struck with errors so dramatic that collectors now pay staggering sums for them. The answer is chilling. Some 1999 Pennsylvania quarters left the mint with double strikes, off-center designs, or most shocking of all, experimental planchets that were never meant to be used. These planchets, the blank discs of metal on which coins are struck, were supposed to be used for foreign currency or for prototype testing. Instead, a few slipped through and were stamped with the Pennsylvania design. Collectors who spotted these errors were stunned. Some couldn't believe their eyes. Dealers rushed to authenticate them, knowing they were staring at coins worth not just hundreds or thousands, but potentially $1 million or more. One particular discovery shook the coin world to its core. A man, digging through his change jar, pulled out what looked like a slightly different Pennsylvania quarter. Something felt off: the weight, the color, the way it caught the light. After taking it to a local coin shop, he learned the truth. His coin had been struck on the wrong planchet, a mistake so rare that only a handful exist. That quarter later stunned the auction block, with furious bidding driving the price up past $1.3 million. But here's the shocking part: most people would never notice this coin if it were in their hand. That's right. It takes a sharp eye, patience, and knowledge of the smallest details to spot $1 million quarter. And many of these are still out there, hiding in old change jars, forgotten rolls of coins, and even vending machine drawers. But what happened next stunned collectors even more. After that record-breaking sale, other 1999 quarters suddenly became hot targets. People began searching obsessively, tearing through coin rolls from banks, even checking pocket change at supermarkets, hoping to find another jackpot quarter. And some did. A Pennsylvania quarter with a dramatic off-center strike sold for tens of thousands. Another with a bold double die error fetched a jaw-dropping six-figure sum. The demand exploded, and overnight, one of the most common coins in America became one of the most hunted treasures. Now here's where the story takes a dramatic twist. Not every unusual quarter is valuable. In fact, many collectors have been fooled by ordinary damage, scratches, worn edges, or machine doubling, things that look like errors but are worth nothing more than 25 cents. Dealers warn, it takes careful study to separate a worthless coin from one worth hundreds of thousands, but when you do find the real thing, the payoff can be life-changing. Imagine trading one quarter, a single coin you could have spent on a gumball, for over $1 million. One collector described it as holding lightning in his hand. Another said the moment he realized his coin was real, his knees went weak. For some, it feels like a miracle, and it gets even better. Experts believe there are still undiscovered 1999 Pennsylvania quarters with rare mint errors hiding in plain sight. That means the next record-breaking coin could be sitting in someone's desk drawer right now, maybe even yours. First, check the mint mark. The most valuable errors come from coins with the P mint mark, struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Next, study the details closely. Does the design look doubled, blurred, or off-center? Does the coin seem too thick, too thin, or unusually heavy? These are telltale signs that your coin may have been struck on the wrong planchet or with a dramatic error. Collectors also advise examining the lettering. On some $1 million examples, the words appear stretched or shifted, a result of misaligned dies. In others, the edges look uneven, or the strike is incomplete. These are the tiny details that separate ordinary pocket change from $1 million miracle. But remember, the coin world is full of surprises. One small discovery can rewrite everything you thought you knew about value. The 1999 Pennsylvania quarter proves it. From the gas station counter to the auction house stage, this little piece of metal has transformed ordinary people into millionaires. So the next time you hold a quarter in your hand, don't dismiss it as just 25 cents. Look closely. Study the details. Because buried in the everyday is a secret that could change your life. One coin. One chance. $1 million miracle, and that's why you must never ignore a 1999 Pennsylvania quarter with the P mint mark. This exact coin could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a parking lot drain, lost forever, worth just 25 cents. But instead, it turned into one of the most shocking $1 million treasures the coin world has ever seen. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Just another quarter, worn down by years of vending machines and pockets. But hidden within the details of the 1966 Washington quarter is a secret so powerful, so rare, that collectors are now willing to pay up to $1.4 million for a single coin. And here's the twist: this quarter doesn't even have a mint mark. No D for Denver, no S for San Francisco, nothing at all. It looks almost unfinished. And that tiny absence, that missing letter, is what turned an everyday coin into a life-changing discovery. Why would a missing mint mark matter so much? The answer takes us deep into one of the most mysterious chapters in U.S. coin history. In 1965, the United States Mint was in crisis. Silver prices were skyrocketing. People were hoarding coins, melting them down for their metal value. The mint feared a shortage that could grind everyday commerce to a halt. So they made a desperate decision, to remove mint marks from coins entirely. From 1965 through 1967, no mint marks were placed on quarters, dimes, or nickels. It was a way to discourage collectors from targeting certain mints and draining coins from circulation. To most people, this looked like a simple change. But hidden within these years, experimental strikes, transitional errors, and rare misprints slipped through the cracks. And one of those rare survivors was the 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A collector, sorting through a jar of change in the late 1990s, spotted something unusual. The coin felt heavier. The luster was brighter. It rang differently when tapped against another quarter. Intrigued, he sent it to be authenticated. What came back shocked even the experts. This 1966 quarter was struck on a 90% silver planchet, a leftover blank meant for earlier coins that it shouldn't have existed. By 1966, quarters were supposed to be clad in copper and nickel, not silver. Yet here it was, a forbidden survivor from a chaotic era. Dealers were speechless. Collectors were stunned. The coin went to auction, and what started as whispers of maybe a few $1,000s turned into a bidding war that skyrocketed into the millions. When the gavel finally fell, the room sat in silence. A single 1966 quarter had just sold for over $1 million, and that was only the beginning. This tiny detail, a simple blank planchet error, is why some 1966 no-mint mark quarters are worth up to $1.4 million today. But here's where it gets even more mysterious. Not all rare 1966 quarters are struck on silver. Some show double die obverse, with Washington's profile faintly doubled. Others reveal striking errors where the design is slightly off-center. And then there are the ultra-rare proof-like strikes, coins that shimmer with mirror-like surfaces even though they were never supposed to exist in that year. But what happened next sent shockwaves through every coin convention in America. Another specimen appeared. This time, tucked inside an old tobacco tin belonging to a World War II veteran. His family, clearing out belongings, nearly tossed the coin into a Coinstar machine. But a grandson noticed something unusual about the edge. It gleamed with silver, unlike modern quarters. That one coin, saved at the very last moment, turned out to be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine that. A man's pocket change, a single quarter from 1966, suddenly becoming a miracle worth nearly $1 million. These coins were never announced. No official record lists how many escaped. Some experts believe fewer than 20 exist. Others suspect there could be hundreds, still hiding in circulation, waiting to be found, but this is where most people make a devastating mistake. They glance at their 1966 quarter, see no mint mark, and assume it's ordinary. They spend it. They let it slip away. And with it, they let go of a fortune. Start with the edge. A normal 1966 quarter will show a copper-colored stripe sandwiched in the middle. But the rare silver planchet error will shine pure white, with no copper core at all. Weighing it is another clue. Silver strikes weigh about 6.25 grams, while clad quarters weigh just 5.67 grams. That tiny difference, less than a gram, is worth more than $1 million. Next, check the details under magnification. Look for doubling in the letters of Liberty or the date, 1966. Look at Washington's profile. If you see even the faintest doubling, you may be holding a rare double die variety worth a small fortune. And finally, look for proof-like luster. If your 1966 quarter gleams like a mirror, with frosted devices standing out against polished fields, you could be looking at one of the ultra-rare strikes collectors dream about. The reality is simple but almost unbelievable. Millions of 1966 quarters are still out there. But only a handful carry the hidden mistakes, the rare planchets, the double dies that turn an everyday coin into $1 million miracle. One man's pocket change became $1 million. One family nearly threw away a fortune. And right now, you could be holding that same chance in your hands. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, when you dig through that old jar of coins, don't just glance and toss. Look closely. Because the difference between 25 cents and $1.4 million might be staring back at you, hidden in the shine of a 1966 no-mint mark Washington quarter.